Well, hello everyone, and thank you for attending this session, which I hope will stick to the 45 minutes time ahead for this. So yeah, it's going to be basically a guide to building your B2B marketing strategy, and a bit of, I guess, a few disclaimers so that you know what to expect from this session. Well, basically, this session, as you know, because you registered for it, is for B2B marketers about to start working or basically revisiting their marketing strategy. So if you're doing this or about to, that's exactly the place to be. And it should give you some sort of a solid foundation to basically start on this exciting journey. But, and that's the sad part, I guess. There's no magic formula that I'm going to be sharing today. It's mostly a lot of hard work and a lot of sweat that's going to happen from your side, but hopefully you will have some more guidance and some sort of a direction to know what to do. And if you cannot make it until the end, well, that's okay. You'll receive a tape, you'll receive a recording of this presentation, most likely tomorrow. If there are questions in the chat, I will also try to answer them in the email tomorrow, at least those that I couldn't answer today. And if I cannot answer it myself, well, I will ask my colleagues because collectively they know a lot more than I do about this. So a few words about me. Well, I'm Clem, head of marketing at Advanced B2B, French person living in Helsinki, and I've been in the SaaS marketing world for the past 10 years with both experiences in agency and in-house. Been working for companies in the past, for companies like Meltwater, Chameleon, Mention. And if content is my first love, well, for, I would say, the past 8 years, sorry, I've been doing a lot of content. Apologies. But I'm more of a generalist marketer nowadays. And if you have any questions, you can, of course, reach out. There is my email right there. Now about Advanced B2B. Well, Advanced B2B is a strategic marketing and HubSpot partner or agency for B2B companies seeking growth. The company was founded in 2014. We are headquarters in Helsinki, where I'm recording now. We also have an office in Malaga and a couple of people in 7 countries in Europe. It's about 45 of us, and we're quite proud to be a home for 10 different nationalities. And also we have customers from Finland, from UK, from Estonia, Denmark, the Netherlands, Switzerland, from Sweden and the US. And another thing we're really proud of is the average partnership duration of 3.5 years, knowing that the longest customer relationship, which is still ongoing, is over 9 years at the moment. And finally, I said we are a HubSpot agency. Well, we are a HubSpot Diamond partner with a customer rating of 4.9 out of 5. So essentially, this means that when it comes to HubSpot, we know a thing or two. But this is the agenda for the day. So I'll go over a couple of basics. It's going to be a 1-slide thing, not too long. Then we'll talk about analyzing your current situation and talk about your challenges, talking about positioning, talking about target audience, your value proposition and messaging. Then we'll talk about the funnel a little bit, the main communication channels, your MarTech ecosystem, and finally we'll talk about goals and SMART goals. Let me know if the coughing is unbearable, and I will try to either drink more tea or take another anti-cough pill. Couple of basics then. Well, sadly, there is no, as I said earlier in the second slide, there's no ready-to-use recipe when it comes to marketing strategy. And yet again, another disclaimer, the purpose of this session is not to claim that there is only one way to do marketing strategy, but this is essentially how we believe marketing strategy should be approached here at Advanced B2B. So there might be other ways, that's okay, but we believe that this is the best one, at least for B2B tech companies. Marketing strategy is not a to-do list. This is very important. It's not just a list of tasks that you have to accomplish. It's really an overarching document that should guide you. And then you should build your task list, I guess, from this strategy. It's not set in stone. This is something that you should be revisiting at least once a year, at least twice a year, ideally, because your company is evolving, the market is evolving, your product is evolving. So you need to revisit also your marketing strategy to make sure that you're still relevant for the world around you and, of course, for your customers and prospective customers. The right strategy can help turn the boat around. And by this, I mean that the situation at the moment is a bit difficult, challenging for pretty much any tech company out there because the market is uncertain. But the right marketing strategy can actually help you turn the boat around. Obviously, it's not something that will happen overnight, but with a bit of time, the right strategy will actually support your company growth. And another very important thing, it's not something, as I said, that will happen overnight. You have to be patient when working on your strategy because there's a lot of people to involve, there's a lot of discussion to be had, and a lot of information to also digest and aggregate. So think weeks, not days, not hours. This is something that takes a bit of time. So step one, analyze your current situation and challenges. This is one of my favorite GIFs. Most importantly, you have to be realistic when looking at your current situation so that you don't set yourself up for failure. And I'm saying this because, well, in the past 4 years at Advanced B2B, I've had the chance to work with many companies. And at this specific phase, when we would talk to our customers, and try to analyze their situation, with all the good intentions in the world, sometimes they would try to embellish the situation a little bit, which would simply set us back a little bit. We would lose a bit of time there because we would have the assumptions that we would have about the performance of the company would not be the right ones. And again, it's all with good intentions, but that's the part where you need to be very realistic. If the situation is critical, then put it on the paper, it's critical. Write down the critical numbers, and that's okay because that's what you need to fix. But if you don't face the situation as it is, it's going to be very difficult to or build a plan to move away from it. So now that this is understood, these are a couple of questions that we always ask when starting the marketing strategy phase with our customers. Very important. What are the main bottlenecks in your marketing funnel? If you look at your funnel, whatever it is, and we'll have a few slides about this today. Where do you see that there is an issue? Where do you see that the numbers don't match? How are your marketing and sales efforts aligned? Same with customer success, product and services. And I'm saying this because alignment between teams it's a bit of a myth because there's always some sort of misalignment. It's never perfect. And actually, teams that operate in full silo can actually get some results somehow. But of course, if everyone is rowing in the same direction, well, you will actually go much further and you will go there much faster as well. So very important, put on the paper about your alignment with your fellow teams and write down, what's the situation, what's not working, what's working, and how to improve it potentially. Do you have a clear vision of your ideal customer profile? We also have a few slides about this. Some brand persona lovers might be disappointed. And finally, do you have a clear positioning, value proposition, and messaging? So all of those things from this stage, you have to put them down on the paper, yes or no. But again, be realistic. It's okay to, not be aligned with other teams. It's okay as long as you know it, because then you know that you can fix it. Fine-tuning your positioning. So this is I don't know how comprehensive this is. This is a map that I took from martechmap.com. So essentially, this is here to show how busy the martech space is. So essentially, if you don't have a clear positioning, or you're just a logo on this massive whiteboard, so it's very difficult to identify anything. And I'm not even trying to read it myself. I'm standing in front of that big screen and, I'm barely reading CRM and I can't really distinguish any logo there. And as the expert April Danforth puts it, positioning is the act of deliberately defining how you are the best at something that a defined market cares a lot about. So um, it's very important to understand that positioning is not your value proposition. It's not a slogan or a piece of or any piece of marketing content that you can have, like a blog post. Is not really a statement for your positioning. Your positioning is like how you set a context for your SaaS product or SaaS service, and the value it delivers to a defined target market. It's really this overarching situation for your company. And of course, this is something that you can only position yourself if you have some sort of something to compare yourself to. So position versus what exactly? Well, you have to consider your competitive alternatives, the unique attributes of your product, also versus the unique attributes of competitors, um, specific characteristics from your target market, the value that you provide to your ideal customer profile or ideal customers, and also which market category you fit in. And the reason, like you do need this airtight understanding. And actually, my colleague Otto had a very, very good blog post about this, and I think I'm promoting it, promoting this blog post two slides down the road. He wrote this really, really comprehensive guide about positioning, and I might have stolen this from him. But essentially, what you need to do is understand who needs your product the most. Then you can connect the dots between the features and the value that you're providing, and then use this value that your ideal customers are getting as a strategic asset, and then put it on the paper, document it, turn your positioning into something real. Because if it's just something super vague, that's like, yeah, we might be on this place in the market, then if you're not sure yourself, then how can your audience know where to look for a specific problem? What you want to do, let me actually go back there because there is a very cool effect, is go from this basically to this. You need people to find you. You need people to understand what you provide based on their need. And as I said, Otto has written a really, really good blog post on this, and you can find it on advancedb2b.com/blog. SaaS positioning, everything for everybody versus something for somebody. Really encourage you guys to read it. It's about like 5-10 minutes read, but it's really worth it. Validate your target audience. So as I said earlier, you need to ditch the buyer persona. And this is something at Advanced B2B that we believe in. I don't think it's possible to change our mind anymore. You need to think jobs to be done and ICP. The reason for this is that buyer persona is really focusing on demographics and psychographics factors, when, for instance, the job to be done framework really focuses on the reasons to buy. And I have an example here, a little exercise. You probably saw this somewhere at some point on the internet. I couldn't find a source, so I can't really credit that person. But anyways, you'll probably realize what it is. On the left, we have male, born in 1948, raised in the UK, married twice, lived in a castle, wealthy and famous. And on the right, we have a male, born in the UK, born and raised in the UK, born in 1948, married twice, lived in a castle, wealthy and famous. On the left, we have King Charles, and on the right, we have Ozzy Osbourne. So that's what I meant by ditch buyer persona. It just doesn't work. Jobs to be done really focuses on this reasons to buy, because they will have most definitely different interests, one might think. Finding your ICP. So for context, your ideal customers are easy to sell to, and they never really require additional time and resources from your sales team or any other team to sell, like, you know, those exceptional meetings, last minute, hey, is anyone ready here to help me to jump in this meeting to convince this person to buy our product? They're mature and really understand the value of your product from the get-go. They're all in usually and don't necessarily question the price too much. They're sticky. That means that they won't necessarily churn easily. Or if you have like if you don't have a subscription, for instance, then they will buy regularly. They're profitable, and the same as they're easy to sell to. Well, as soon as you sold them your product or service, they won't suck the time from your customer success team or your product team, because of course, if you sell your product for, I don't know, let's put like 1,000 euros a month, but that customer uses 30 hours a week from your customer success team, of course, is not going to be profitable. And finally, they're happy people, and they actually recommend your product and services to their peers, and that's the best part. So I'm writing finding your ICP, but one does not simply find their ICP. Well, to do this, well, of course, you need to have assumptions on who your ICP is, and based on those assumptions and perception of your current ICP, we usually recommend to list 5 to 10 of your ideal customers, then conduct interviews. That means that you actually need to sit down with them, talk to them for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, to ask them about the reasons, like, why did they buy your product? Are they happy with your product? What does your product help them do? And very important one is, if your product would not exist, what would they do? Like, question your ideal customers to understand exactly the value they see in your product, because you want more of them. And then aggregate your learning and refine your ICP definition. And highly recommend you to go on advancedb2b.com. If you go to Insight on our header menu and go to Guide, you'll find a free template in which we have basically listed all of the questions that we usually ask in those interviews. So if you do conduct it yourself, you will most definitely find this interesting. Value proposition and messaging. So your value proposition is a clear statement that explains how you meet your ICP's pain point or your ideal customer's pain point. It should be a statement that delivers or explains specific benefits that you provide, and it should say why your ICP should choose you. So this is why you do need to know why your ICP likes your product. And from this, you should be able to craft this value proposition. But what's really important to know is that your brand is your strongest asset. So when thinking about your value proposition, don't necessarily think just about your products or services, because anyone can mimic a product or your product and actually offer a similar experience to yours with enough time and resources. A couple of years ago, I was working for a company to assist them with their marketing strategy, and then someone from the customer side told us that no one can copy their product. Of course, we had to explain why, but like, this is exactly what I mean. Like, you have to understand that actually anyone can copy your product with enough time and money. Your brand, however, is really difficult to copy. It's a bigger thing. It's a greater thing. It can be imitated, but not stolen. It's a bit like the Big Mac, I guess. Yeah, it's like it's what differentiates you and what you bring to the table and why you're the best option for your target audience. And for this, I would actually recommend a message map when you're working on your value proposition messaging. Message map is basically some sort of a visual tool, if you want, or a document that's here to help you with storytelling, and it's here to help aligning and unify your messages to allow that there is consistent and harmonized communication when your employees, when your colleagues talk about your brand, maybe on the website, on social media, in meetings. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just here to align all of your messages based on who you're talking to. So specific job titles, specific roles in the buying process, what they need to be done, what is their maturity level, what benefits do they get from your product, what are the use cases that they get from the product, what are the features, etc., etc. And for this, we also have a free template on the website. So also highly invite you to head there and download it after this webinar. It might sound a little bit intimidating at first, but as soon as you start working on it, it makes sense, and you will just have this, as it's called, like a message map to address different audiences or problems, but always with consistency. Build your marketing funnel. So, bit of a stocky image there. Your marketing funnel is essentially, as you know, the backbone of your marketing operations because it's here to help you understand your performance and identify those key bottlenecks, slowing your growth. And if you do find those bottlenecks, well, basically the funnel is here to, or the funnel view and what you learn from it is here to help you fix it. So, of course, there's a ton of different funnels. I just Googled marketing funnel in Google Image and found a lot of those. So of course, can be a bit difficult to choose from this. What is the best funnel? Is there a best funnel? What should be the funnel that you adopt for your company? Well, we could be wrong, but there is a specific funnel type that we really appreciate at Advanced B2B, and it's the pirate funnel, or R, or yeah, but don't make me say it again. Basically, it covers the awareness, acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral. We like it because it is precise, easy to understand, also for the companies we usually work with, and flexible. So for instance, here we have awareness, acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, referral. But knowing that awareness obviously is like everything you do to basically bring more eyeballs on your company and everything you do around it. Acquisition, when you capture demand. Activation, when you bring your contact to maturity. Retention, and that's where it could be because every company is different. So retention, for instance, could be a deal is on the table or they manifested greater interest in your product or service. Revenue, obviously, fairly straightforward, and referral, people can recommend you. But in other cases, you could have the revenue before the retention. If your product is like very low touch or no touch, then most likely revenue will come first, and then you want to ensure that people actually stick around. So it's a bit flexible, which is why we like it. And also the amount of steps also makes it easy to basically capture everything that is relevant. Now, if we take an example of like identifying bottlenecks, so this is completely bogus numbers. Say you have a lot of traffic on, or a lot of traffic, you have traffic on your website, which turned into 200 MQLs, 22 SQLs, maybe something's wrong here, 17 opportunities, 10 customers. So 8% of your traffic turning into MQLs, that's actually pretty good, probably higher than the average because MQLs are supposed to be qualified. 11% of your MQLs turning into SQLs, so sales qualified lead, maybe something's wrong here. A lot of SQLs turning into opportunities, and a lot of those also turning into customers. So it looks like you're able to get a lot of contacts from your traffic, qualified contacts, and then whatever happens after sales is actually picking up those contacts is also pretty sweet. However, there is a big problem here. So this is how we like to use the funnel. This tells us that there is a massive gap between MQL and SQL, and maybe it would be sensible to look into it to fix whatever is broken. And it could be 1,000 things. It could be that you have no nurturing. It could be that your sales team doesn't have time to look after the MQLs. It could be that they don't know that they are MQLs because somehow it doesn't come on their table. So, but clearly something's broken here. Identify your main comms channel. This is going to be more, this is stuff you absolutely know, but it's always good to repeat. So there are basically 3 types of channels: communication channels, owned media, paid media, and earned media. So owned media, well, you have, this is essentially everything you own, everything you control, or to some level, because of course you control your company website, you control your blog posts, your newsletter. Social media account is already like, you control obviously what goes out there, but then obviously social media being social media, you don't fully control what's happening there, but you get the idea. And it's important because it's here to help you build authority, generate demand, and the most important part of the own media side of things is that you have the control of things. You have the control of the narrative. So it's really important that whatever you do, you invest in that. You don't shy away from investing on your website, basically, or don't. That might upset some people. I don't know. Don't just ask ChatGPT to write a blog post and publish them for you, because most likely the tone is going to be wrong. The content might be, very much on the surface. So really invest in whatever you own because you control it. So you have the full control here. Paid media. So as it says, this is essentially what the exposure that you pay for. So search engine ads, social media ads, display advertising, sponsorship, retargeting campaigns. So obviously, we believe that this is key in growing your company, whatever your strategy ends up being, because as you pay for the exposure, you actually can reach your ICP because you pay to be in front of the relevant eyeballs, the decision makers, the influencers, or whoever you want to target. You can actually do this on most of the common platforms. Scale as you go. Well, basically, if you put more money in the pot, most likely, well, you can scale up your operations when it comes to advertising. And another great thing about advertising campaigns is that usually the platforms that on which you can advertise also offer pretty advanced measurement tools, and so that you can understand exactly what you're doing with all of the euros you're investing in there, so that you can improve and iterate with time. Earn media. Well, this is whatever happens outside of your bubble, I guess. So this is media coverage that you don't necessarily start. Sorry. All of the social shares, all of the mentions on social media. So this can be obviously positive, negative. The customer reviews, so those also can be positive, negative. There is such a thing as bad publicity, I guess. And of course, also testimonials. So those are a little bit on the verge between earned media and owned media. Because, for instance, customer stories that you can produce with your customers, well, you do have some control over them. So it's a bit of a blurry frontier, I guess, on in between those two. And of course, word of mouth. So this matters because, well, you get brand awareness. Of course, you have no control over it or little control over it. It builds credibility and trust because you can use your own media to say to the world that you're the best and that you help millions of companies making more money, essentially. It doesn't matter because this is you saying it. So if someone outside of your bubble actually says it, well, this is actually invaluable because of course, their word is worth more than yours in this case. And also it can be SEO juice. This is very good, especially, of course, if you receive high quality organic backlinks. If you receive low quality backlinks, of course, you can disavow them so that it doesn't impact your rankings. But on the other side, if you receive high quality backlinks, well, this is very, very good for your overall ranking. Review your marketing ecosystem or marketing tool ecosystem, if you want, marketing technology ecosystem. It's a bit of a big word in which like you can put a lot of things, but essentially, yeah, what I'm saying, what I mean by this is that you need to look at all of the tools that you're using. That includes your websites, your CMS, your CRM, your email platforms, marketing automation tools, any tools that you're using with sales, any tools that you're using to analyze your performance, maybe GA4 or something else, your social media tools, anything that you're using in your marketing operations or even sales operations. Take a look at this, put them on the paper, and think for a moment about how interconnected those tools are. I'm saying that because it might come as a surprise to a lot of you today, but still a lot of companies are manually exporting, importing a lot of data from a tool to another to just keep track of whatever is happening and measure their performance. What you want to do is to actually have something that is hosted under one roof, because then you don't have to do those time-consuming exports. And I'm talking about this, and you probably see where I'm going with this. Well, I mentioned that we are a HubSpot partner agency, and we are HubSpot all the way. And if you're not, I mean, I guess I see a lot of familiar names in the attendees today. So I see a lot of people that I know are convinced by this. What I'm trying to say here is that HubSpot is essentially a tool that will make your life a lot easier. And as I said, we know a thing or two about HubSpot with a 4.9 out of 5 customer ranking. So whatever it is, I've put like a couple of visuals here. Like we can do integrations between HubSpot and Salesforce. We also use Make, which is an amazing platform that makes a lot of HubSpot integrations a lot easier, a lot more, well, makes everything better, I would say, when it comes to integration. And like Yuho, one of our HubSpot experts, likes to say, well, if there is if the integration is possible, we will make it. That's the message here. So the idea is to really make HubSpot as the center as your ecosystem, because it just makes everything a lot easier. So consider it. You don't have to knock on our door, even though we would help, of course, but do consider it. It will make a lot of things easier. Now, when it comes to setting smart goals and KPIs, well, this is a very important slide that we often share when introducing our approach to marketing strategy with our customers, our prospective customers, actually. This is essentially where you want to be. So to set your marketing goals, of course, you need to know your overall business goal because as I said earlier in this session, you don't want to work in a silo. Marketing could get results, of course, even working in a silo, but you will get a lot more results if you actually craft your marketing strategy to support your business goal. So whatever your business goal is. So here we have this bogus 3 million pounds in revenue in 2025. Then from this, of course, your sales goal would come and different sales targets. And from this, your marketing goal. So this marketing goal should support your business goal. So it could be 1.7 million pounds comes from marketing operations. So that could be your overall goal, for instance. It's a bit of a large goal. And the idea is to then break down this goal into a couple of goals. So now we have like 2 6-month goals so that you have specific milestones. And from those milestones, you build 3-month plans. So the idea really is like to work your way like up to the bottom. And then this is what we find is the best way basically to have concrete actions that actually support your goal. Now, when it comes to setting those milestones and those goals, if you set very vague goals, then you will get very vague performance, I guess. So that's why we believe that you should think about SMART goals. So SMART for, and you most likely know this already, be as specific as you can versus the desired goal. So for instance, we have here an example of increase brand awareness among ICP mid-market tech companies with a targeted content marketing campaign. Bad example, improve brand visibility. Like, it is a goal, but it's not a SMART goal. Measurable. Example here, generate 100 leads or ICP leads from mid-market companies within the next quarter through a series of targeted webinar campaigns. Bad example, generate more leads. More leads is never the answer. You want better leads. Achievable. Publish a high-quality gated ebook and hosting a webinar for mid-market tech companies each month for the next quarter. Bad example, publish daily industry reports without additional resources. It's a bit, would be a bit difficult to do. Relevant. Aligning our primary business objectives to establish our authority in the mid-market tech sector, attract 100 new ICP leads, which we can nurture. Bad example, increase social media follower. Same as generate more leads or improve brand visibility. It's vague and doesn't really mean anything. It's a wish, let's put it that way. All of those bad examples are like wishes, but they're very blurry. Time bound, generate 100 new ICP leads from mid-market tech companies within the next quarter. And again, generate leads would be a bad example. So that's how you should go about doing this, to then feed your plan and your milestones, to reach your milestones from the ground up, so that you can actually reach your 12-month marketing goal and hopefully support your overall business goal. So there you have it. As I said in the introduction, this is not a copy-paste, ready to copy-paste magic formula to get your business to new highs. However, I hope that you did get some inspiration to actually review some aspects of your marketing organization or your current marketing strategy, or if you're about to work on your or marketing strategy from the ground, basically. I hope that this somewhat gives you some direction as to where to start. Of course, some of those steps might happen at the same time or in different orders, depending on the resources that you have at hand. But yeah, this is essentially how we would approach it here at Advanced B2B. This is it. Thanks for attending. Of course, if you have questions, now is the time to ask. Can revisit some specific points back in the slides. But yeah, this is essentially what I had to show you today. And if you didn't know, we also have a podcast, the Growth Hub podcast, which you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and SoundCloud. And we publish usually an episode every month. And the next one will be released next week. Oh, I see that we actually have questions, but somehow it didn't show on my screen. Now I see them. Okay. Apologies for not going to those. So in your experience, what are the key indicators that a company's positioning needs to be revisited or refined? Well, basically, if you don't, let's go to those slides. Where was it? There's too many slides. If when looking at those, for instance, if you cannot really position yourself, or if you realize that whatever you do consistently, your messaging does not resonate with your ICP, or you just can't get your hands on your ICP, then clearly there is a positioning issue. And there's many ways to look at this. Of course, it could be like, I would say it depends. There's a lot of potential for potential answers for this one. But clearly, I would say like one of the biggest indicators is that your message or you cannot reach your audience, basically. Yeah, that's I would say the biggest symptom for a broken positioning, or positioning that needs to be revisited. What are some common mistakes companies make when defining or refining their ICP? That's a very good one. I would say the biggest mistake is assuming that you know. And I'm saying this because oftentimes when doing this exercise, which is one of my favorite actually when working on a strategy, you realize that there is sometimes some like there might be some frustration sometimes from some people on the customer side of things, because they obviously know their customers, but they will also assume some things. They like no one knows everything. Even after the interviews that we conduct, we don't know everything about your customers, but we know a bit more than before the interview. And also one thing is that because we are usually we're a third party, there is not this, there is no fear of like damaging the relationship if the customer says specific let's say like things that bother them about the tool or the service or the company. So they might actually sometimes speak to us a bit easily than they would to to the company that they subscribe to. But yeah, I would say assumptions, assuming that you know, is the worst because well, what if you assume that you know something and then you spend thousands and thousands on your from your media budget on assumptions, and then you realize after 4 months that hey, this didn't work. So yeah, that would be assuming. Assuming would be a terrible thing to do. My question is about balancing brand building and lead generation. We have several heads screaming for leads every day of the week. How do you suggest we balance long-term and brand building efforts with short-term lead generation in B2B marketing? Well, lead generation is everyone wants leads, but in reality, no one wants leads because if one of those heads that you're talking about is the head of sales, for instance, if you just bring more leads, well, they will be upset with you because probably those leads won't be qualified. So yeah, I would say the answer is never more leads, it's just better leads. So that's why you need to find that ICP. Whatever, however niche your market, you need to find that ICP. Because and if you find it, and if your positioning is right, if your messaging is right, you will be able to find those leads, those quality leads. Of course, something to consider also is nurturing, because not everyone is ready to purchase your product from the get-go. So you could have expert guides or downloadables. This is something, for instance, we do. Not everyone is ready to jump in and work with an agency. They want to know a bit more about us first and see if we actually know our craft. So nurturing is also something that you can consider to then generate leads and nurture them and then send them to your sales team, for instance. The answer to my question is probably long, but I would appreciate it if you could share at least a few of the most effective ways to identify and address bottlenecks in the B2B marketing funnel. Oof. For example, how can we make sure continuous optimization across each stage in our funnel? Well, of course, there is the tooling. If you cannot, if your tools are not connected, then you will have an issue. For instance, if your Google Analytics 4 or GA4 is not perfectly configured, well, you won't necessarily know much about who's coming to your website to begin with. If your CRM or the CRM, for instance, if you're using HubSpot for marketing and Salesforce for sales, but there is very poorly done or no integrations between the two, then of course there will be a little bit of a bottleneck in the funnel because you will have those manual import exports to do all the time. So yeah, I guess it's very difficult because sadly this is one of those answers that depends on the situation. But the technical side of things is obviously very important to make sure that your funnel makes sense. Could also be your processes, as I said earlier in those in the silly funnel example that we had. Could also be that you generate a lot of marketing qualified leads, so actually qualified leads, but your sales team just doesn't have the capacity to deal with them all. That could also be a thing. So sadly, it really depends. Thanks for the webinar. Thank you. I really like your content. Follow it. Can you explain the most effective ways to measure the effectiveness of different communication channels in B2B marketing? Well, that's also one of those things. It depends. It depends on your objective. Some channels you can use for awareness generation. Some channels you can use for lead generation. Some channels you can use for activation. Like it really depends on what you're trying to do. So I would say that look at your objective. What are you trying to achieve? And always, let me put it that way, like always have a goal before you press the live button, because otherwise, well, how can you know that you succeeded or failed if you had no expectations to begin with? So set those expectations on the paper, formulate those hypotheses when experimenting with new channels, for instance, and then you should be able to somewhat identify what is working, what is not, and that should give you room to optimize. Ali, thanks, Clem. Thank you, Ali. If you could name one thing that every company should start with when they do their B2B marketing strategy, what would it be, considering their time and budget are limited? Hmm, if your time is limited, or if there is one thing, I would say like the one thing to absolutely not forget about is talk to your customers. I assume you might be on board with me on that one. Um, yeah, like, or if we would name three, look at your data, um, talk to your colleagues from different teams. It's important. It's not a one person job. You need more brains on this one because marketing cannot do everything or apprehend everything. Um, look at your data, talk to your colleagues, talk to your customers. That would be the most important ones. And last question, what values could an agency offer compared to an in-house team when developing a marketing strategy? Do you help companies only with building the marketing strategy? Amazing question. Well, of course, this is also it depends situation. Well, and we help companies building their marketing strategies, but we also, as I said earlier, like we work in retainers, so very long term. So we do strategic work, but we also do a lot of execution work as well to then, turn those marketing strategies into hopefully relevant tactics that actually have an impact. So now in-house versus agency, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Um, the thing is, if you work in house, of course, there is a lot of benefits. You own the knowledge, you own all the processes. You are growing those competencies and skills in house. So this is very valuable. Of course, it also has a cost because, well, you do need to pay those people. So if you need someone who's an expert in analytics, in HubSpot, in if you need a designer, if you need a developer, well, this adds up. Of course, working with a marketing agency also costs. Nothing is free, sadly. But actually, if you look longer term, maybe the marketing strategy it's actually counterintuitive, but it might actually be cheaper for the amount of expertise that you get because you can um to basically say like how we work at Advanced B2B, we usually assign a team of 2 to 4 people, depending on the needs of our customers. And in that team, there will be all the expertise that they need. So if they need a designer, we will have a designer to help them. If they need a content creator, we will have a content creator. If they need a marketing strategist, they will have a marketing strategist and a paid specialist, depending on what they need. So all of this is in a way packaged into a package, for lack of a better word. So yeah, it's really about like owning the skills, but potentially also having quite a lot of costs to deal with, or outsourcing, accepting to outsource the skills, knowing that of course you can learn from us when working with us, or outsourcing, but having access to quite a lot of like a wide scope of skills when it comes to marketing. And I guess at Advanced B2B, we pretty much cover everything from content advertising, strategic, HubSpot development. So yeah, I guess it's really about this, accepting to outsource or owning everything yourself.